Are we good to go? All right. Hello and welcome to the Ethel Cofie Startup School with Ethel Cofie. Thank you for joining us today. This is the first of many, so it will be 5 months of a series of videos every Thursday on Parlous Ghana on Facebook Live to talk about what it means to become an entrepreneur, what the journey is like right now for you who is sitting in your office or who thinks they have an idea. And then you want to take that idea from just something that's in your head to an actual scalable business that makes you money. So we'll be doing that over the next 5 to 6 months, once a week, every Thursday. Now, before I really tell you what the content of the Ethel Cofie Startup School is going to be like, I want to tell you what it is not. Now, the Ethel Cofie Startup School is not about motivational quotes on, you can do it. You see a nice motivational quote on your wall on a Monday, and then the motivation dries out by lunchtime. That's not what this program is about. Now, this program is meant to give you practical points and tips and steps on your journey to become an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurship is hard and entrepreneurship is difficult. It's not an easy journey. And I don't subscribe to the notion that, that everyone must be an entrepreneur. So that's the first step. We're saying that there are some people that are called to be entrepreneurs. There are some people that are better at entrepreneurship. There are some people that have the ambition and are willing to put in the work. Those are the people that we want to take on this journey with us from the start of an idea to the end of an idea, to the end where you have an actual growing business. Now, the other thing it is not is an experiment in making you feel good about the journey. I want you to understand that the journey to starting and running your own business is going to be a difficult journey. I want you to understand that there are many people on that journey that are struggling. And I need you to understand that if you want to become somebody who runs their own business, then you must be willing to deal with failure. So again, this is not an impractical, feel-good series on how to run a business. This is an actual practical, hard, tough knocks on how to run a business. Then now I will tell you what the course content is going to be like over the next 5 to 6 months. We're going to do a lot of discussion around putting together and validating your business idea, putting together your business model, putting together your distribution channels. I'm going to have some friends who run finance businesses come here and talk to us about how to finance your business and how to manage the finances in your business. We're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about sales, which is also one of the most important things in running a business, right? So if you don't sell, then you are running a very expensive hobby, and that's not what business is about. Now that I've told you what the Ethel Cofie Startup School is about, I'll tell you a little bit about who Ethel Cofie is. So I'm Ethel Cofie. I have 2 jobs, right? I have multiple jobs, but we'll talk about 2 of them. The first one is I am CEO and founder of Ethel Technology Consulting. Ethel Technology Consulting is an IT consulting firm that runs out of Ghana and the UK. Now, we're the very best in what we do. How do we know that? We have won the Ghana IT Consulting Firm of the Year. We won 2016. We've been nominated for 2017. We've been given an award in Mauritius by the Mauritius president on corporate social responsibility in business. That's one job, and that's a business I've built over the last couple of years, and I'll tell you a little bit about that journey. Then I have another job, which is I founded Women in Tech Africa, which is an NGO, which started from 70 women in Ghana to now for thousands of women across 30 African countries. We're the largest women in tech group on the continent. And so I know a little bit about starting and running a business and all sorts of businesses and what that looks like. I myself have been named in the last year by the Mail and Guardian in South Africa. I've been named one of the top 5 women in Africa influencing technology. I've also won some awards in South Africa about being a businesswoman of influence. And I say this it's not a boastful sort of thing, but it's to tell you the kind of conversations that we're about to have, right? I am somebody who's built 2 businesses, that was running 2 businesses, and is bringing the teachings and the learning, the practical teachings and the learnings from running these businesses to you, to enable you to live out the dream, whatever ambition, whatever dream, whatever business that you want to run. I am here today to help you along with that journey by sharing with you my journey, my lessons, and over time I will, like I said, I will bring friends along who also have particular knowledge in branding or financing, who also share aspects. Now, before I go on, I want to say for the listeners that stay till the very end, I will be giving out the Harvard Business Review book on innovation. So if you if you listen through to the end, you'll have an interesting book that will start you on your entrepreneurial journey. Okay. So now that we've gotten out of the way that this is not a motivational program, this is a practical program. We will start the topic of how do you begin to get ready, right? So I don't subscribe to the notion that you have an idea and you might have a family, you might have to have bills. I don't subscribe that you jump immediately, you have an idea, you're passionate about it. I don't subscribe that you jump immediately. There are certain skills you need to have in order to successfully run a business. And I will tell you my experience of how I got ready to run my businesses, which is the Ethel Technology Consulting and Women in Tech Africa. And I'm hoping at the end of the 5 or 6 months with me, you will have your practical MBA in running your business and living out your dream. So how do you prepare yourself to start a business? Now, the very, very, very first thing you must learn to do is learn how to deal with failure. That's the first thing. Learn how to deal with failure. I'll tell you one story. I'll tell you multiple stories of things I have failed at. So I left university I went to university in the UK, and then after I finished, I worked as an IT consultant for a number of companies. And I decided, and this is why I say I don't subscribe to immediately jumping. I decided to leave my nice apartment and my nice job in the UK and come back to Ghana to start a business. Now, imagine bringing all your savings to Ghana. Imagine bringing all your savings, carrying all your savings, coming to Ghana with your master's in software engineering or whatever, and running a business and failing, which is what I did. I lost all all the savings that I had at the time, and I was back to square one. Can you imagine what that feels like, to be able to have a dream and an ambition, that passion that you care about, but try to run a business and failing? So goes back to the thing, learn and understand how to deal with failure. So what did I do? I went and I got other jobs. And anyone who knows my history will know I went and I worked across, I did some jobs in Nigeria, I did some jobs in Sierra Leone, I worked for Vodafone Ghana, all in an attempt to ensure that I could get back on my feet and start a business. Now, after losing my business the first time, I didn't just go back and work. I recognized the skills that I did not have. Number one, and we'll discuss it later, I did not know how to sell. I was a technical person. I was good at building software. I was good at consulting for my clients on how to use technology to build their businesses. But if you can't sell, then you don't have a business. So in all the jobs that I had after I lost my first business, I looked for jobs that would teach me how to be able to pitch my ideas, present my ideas, sell, because I always wanted to sell to CEOs and C-level executives. How do you sell to a CEO? How do you sell to a C-level executive? Again, in dealing with my failures, this is the number one thing. In dealing with my failure, I didn't just lie down. I decided, actually, I need to go and learn the skills that I need to come back. So even I needed to come, and it took me 3 years to come back and start the business, but I learned the skills. So number one, learn how to deal with failure. Learn that a failure is just a small intermediate break in this journey. You will have that happen to you multiple times. I can tell you that I have friends that have run businesses that have had their biggest clients leave and pull out and then take away all their income. How do you deal with that? You as a person need to learn how to cope with failure. Because as a business person, any entrepreneur will tell you that failure will happen very often on your journey to taking your business to scale. And you've got to learn that you don't lie down and give up the first time something happens to you. Now, the next thing is, and I've already alluded to it, is learn how to sell. Now, if you're in a corporate career right now, so you're in a role where you might be technical, you work in HR, you work in marketing, I suggest that you start volunteering with, you know, when your church, sometimes churches go out to do fundraising drives, or, you know, committees for fundraising and things. It's actually a really good place to learn how to sell, how to convince people, how to negotiate, right? So you might not be comfortable with it, right? Again, number two, learn how to sell. You might not be comfortable with it because you're a technical person. Why do you want to go and be, you know, convincing people? But here's the thing, and I'll say it again. Here's the thing. If you can't sell, you have a hobby. It's not a business, right? You have to sell to make income, to scale, to grow. So, and even if you're going to get investors, you have to convince the investors to give you money. It's that simple. So learn how to sell. Find ways. If it means taking time out, but dedicating a few weeks, a few times a week, whether it's for your church, whether it's for your favorite charity, or, you know, if you have a cousin or whatever that owns a shop, go and sit there once a week. Learn how to sell. That's number two. Number three, learn how to be uncomfortable, right? Because entrepreneurship is, most of the time as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs will tell you that there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty when you're making plans for the year. You're uncertain, you know, who the next client is going to be. Learn how to deal with that level of uncertainty. So here's a few tips, right? So I wrote down that if you were a lawyer, for instance, then once a week, do something out of the norm. Maybe once a week, go and spend time with your friend that runs a restaurant. It'll give you a different perspective on how things are done. Sometimes you can learn something from one industry and apply it in another industry. That will give you a little edge. A typical example is, and I'm using a non-Ghanaian example, but Apple, when Apple wanted to build their retail shops, they wanted to build an experience that enabled that enabled you to walk in and want to stay. And then they looked around all industries and asked themselves, which industry actually builds spaces where people enjoy spending time. And they realized actually high-end hotels have spaces. You know, when you go to the hotel lobby, it's a really interesting space where people sort of enjoy sitting in that space. So what did? They sent all their management team, their retail management team, to training with high-end hotels. There are things that you can learn from other industries that you can apply. Learn to do something out of the norm. If you're very bad with maybe talking to strangers, then maybe pledge that once a week you'll just, you know, somebody in the trotro, somebody in a taxi, wherever, just pledge to talking to a stranger. Again, it's part of being uncomfortable and learning how to deal with being uncomfortable, doing something out of the norm, right? So you meet somebody out on the street. Normally, you're not an extrovert. Maybe you're a quiet person. But again, forcing yourself. You have to understand that a lot of entrepreneurship about psychologically being ready, right? So a lot of that is making sure that you can be, if you even know you're not in your comfort zone, that you're okay. You can actually even take a class, maybe learn a new thing that you don't necessarily need for your line of work, right? So maybe if you are a medical doctor, maybe you can take a programming class, or maybe if you're a developer, a technology developer like me, you can take marketing classes, right? You have to, because part of entrepreneurship also is there's a lot of things you don't know, and there's lots of things you've got to learn on the fly. So you've got to make yourself learn how to do that. Learn how to quickly pick up a new skill, learn a new skill, and move on. And with this point, the point is always at the end of it. The idea is to push you out of your comfort zone, for you to be okay with being uncomfortable, broadening your skill sets and your knowledge all in one. Again, do something out of the norm at least once a month. Now, the next one, which is 3, which is become a power listener. What does that mean, to become a power listener? The best thing for an entrepreneur is being able to listen to what a client is saying and pick out and be able to realize what the client needs and sell it to them, right? So instead of waiting for your turn to speak, which is what a lot of us do, right? So if you are arguing with somebody or you are talking to somebody, you are not actually, a lot of times, a lot of us are not actually listening to what the person is saying. We are waiting for our turn to speak. The person, okay, wait. When the person finishes, then we're next. No. There are a few tips for that. These are things I've taught myself. Give full attention to what someone is saying to you. So if you're having a conversation, before you answer, take 5 seconds to think about it. 5 seconds. Just take 5 seconds to think about what the person is saying. Not thinking about your answer, but think about what the person is saying before you open your mouth to answer. So don't immediately, every time somebody is speaking, give them your full attention. Listen to every word. And then take your time to answer. Because you know what? Becoming a power listener means that when you go to sell product A to a client, and you're sitting and the client maybe doesn't need product A, and you are pushing the product, and they might be listening to you, but they'll make a comment. They'll say something that will guide you. Let's say you're trying to sell, oranges, and the person is saying, oh, I haven't had pineapples in a while. You don't continue and go, oh, but oranges are good for you. If you want to get paid, that's not how you do it, right? So part of it is also, it's a skill. It's not something you develop immediately, but it's a skill of actively listening to what people are saying to you, in order to, as somebody who's going to be an entrepreneur, in order to figure out what is this that they really need in order for you to sell to them, whether it is selling a concept, selling an idea, selling a product. Actively listening will enable you figure out what people need and what people want, especially when we're in an environment where we're not necessarily in some cultures, they're very straightforward, and in our culture it's not as much. Sometimes people they try and be diplomatic. And so in order to understand what people need from you, you've got to become a power listener. Now, does anybody remember anything that I've said? The 3 things that I've said, because I'll be asking a question so that you will win the Harvard Business Review book on innovation. Now, this is a book I've read myself. It's a really interesting book on how to begin to see opportunities in different places. How to see opportunities in different places, how to think differently. In Ghana, there are a lot of Me Too businesses, right? So somebody sets up, orange seller sets up here. In the next 1 month, In the next 1 month, there are 10 orange sellers in there. Now, how do you grow as a business if there are 10 orange sellers in one space? Being innovative means that you might be in the same space with 10 orange sellers. You're the person who started. How do you ensure that when people who walk down the lane still buy from you? Innovation, right? How do you innovate? How do you do something different so that you're the person that's always ahead? And that also helps in a career. Because whatever business you do, somebody is always going to build something behind, right? So you have to be the company that is, by the time they get to 1, you are 2. If by the time they get to 2, you are 3. You're always evolving. There are lots of Ghanaian businesses that are started out, and you've seen there's a lot of businesses in Africa worldwide. You've seen them, they start out, they're doing really, really well, but they get very stagnant. They don't do anything anymore. They're very, very stagnant. They don't make any changes. And before you know, their competitors have come up behind them and they've taken them. So the first person I think that will be able to give me all the 3 things that I've said, all the 3 things, I will not repeat them, all the 3 things I've said about how to get ready to make the jump from your corporate career to an entrepreneurial career, how to get ready, how to start planning, will get the book. So I think you just leave a comment. You just leave a comment with all 3, and then Parlous will get your prize to you. Now, there are a few things that I wanted to add. So this week, then the Ethel Cofie Startup School will also be having a live workshop, which will be on Saturday at AIA, which is the African Africa Internship Academy. It's at Kokomlemle. If you go to www.ethelcofie.com, you'll find details out there. It's a full day event starting from 9 in the morning to about 4 in the morning. And we go through practical steps on how do you plan your business model, which is something we'll discuss in the next week. How do you put together your business plan? I don't advocate for a 20-page business plan. You don't need a 20-page business plan. You need a 1-page business plan, because everything you know about business, once you meet the customer, it will change. You don't need to spend energy on a 20-page business plan, unless you're going to the bank for money. Then the bank likes 20-page business plans. So if you actually want to start, 1 page to give you ideas. Also, how do you ensure your distribution model is on point, right? So how do you get your product or your service from your head to the paper to the customer? How do you ensure that happens? So how do you build a distribution model? Some people, for instance, I'm distributing the Ethel Cofie Startup School content over Parlous Live, right? So that's a distribution model. There's some people that do direct. There are some people that sell through other people. Just figuring out from the perspective of your business or your service, how really you should plan your distribution model. And I think we have come to the end of this week's Ethel Cofie Startup School. I hope that the points that I've made have resonated with you. If you genuinely believe that you're called to entrepreneurship and you have an idea and you have a thought, or you want a career that allows flexibility, then entrepreneurship is definitely for you. Now, the point is for you to begin to think about how to make the jump. And I hope that the points that I've given you today will help you begin to get ready for the day that you can tell your employer, bye-bye, I'm going to start my business. Those who want to reach out to me, I'm at Ethel Cofie on Twitter, at Ethel Cofie on Instagram, and I think it's Ethel D. Cofie on Facebook, or go to www.ethelcofie.com. And there's a bit more content around running a business and being successful at running a business. So come along with me on this journey over the next 5 months, and you will definitely learn a lot and get your practical MBA on how to run a business. Enjoy the rest of the week.